Good morning, everyone. Get your coffee. Boy, for a second there, I could even see my steam. Mike, you are absolutely right. Finally, Friday, a great way to start. Oh, I love the weekend. Let's go ahead and think about some things before we dive into this. Naaman, um, commander of an entire Syrian army, has leprosy. A young Israelite servant girl is in his household and speaks one sentence. Uh, and it changes everything. And then in chapter 6, as we learn more, the Syrian king sends an entire army to surround the city of Dothan and to capture the prophet Elijah. And Elijah's servant wakes up and panics. Elijah doesn't pray for the army to leave, he prays for his servant's eyes to be opened. Because what you see in the world is not the whole story. And when we are partnered with God, man, some great things can happen. And there's peace in the turmoil. Let's go ahead and listen to today. If you guys are new here, we go through the Bible in the year. I usually do a little thing like I just did for you to pay attention as you're listening, look for certain things. You're going to listen for about 10 minutes. That's me reading the chapters. Today happens to be 2 Kings 5 and 6. After we're done with that, then I'm going to go ahead and discuss on how each chapter applies to our lives today, or our life today. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to screen share. Share screen. All right. 2 Kings 5. Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and in high favor, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. Now the Syrians on one of their raids had carried off a little girl from the land of Israel, and she worked in the service of Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "Would that my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria. He would cure him of his leprosy." So Naaman went in and told his Lord. Thus and so spoke the girl from the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, "Go now, and I will send up the letter to the king of Israel." So he went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 changes of clothing. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, "When this letter reaches you, know that I have sent to you Naaman, my servant, that you may cure him of his leprosy." And when the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, "Am I God to kill and make alive, that this man sends word to me to cure a man of his leprosy? Only consider and see how he is seeking a quarrel with me." But when Elijah the man of God heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he said to the king, "Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come now to me, that he may know that there is a prophet in Israel." So Naaman came with his horses and chariots and stood at the door of Elijah's house. And Elijah sent a messenger to him, saying, "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean." But Naaman was angry and went away, saying, "Behold, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call upon the name of the Lord his God, and would wave his hand over the place and cure the leper. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean?" So he turned and went away in a rage. But his servants came near and said to him, "My father, it is a great word the prophet has spoken to you. Will you not do it? Has he actually said to you, 'Wash and be clean'?" So he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God. And his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. Then he returned to the man of God, he and all his company, and he came and stood before him. And he said, "Behold, I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. So accept now a present from your servant." But he said, "As the Lord lives, before whom I stand, I will receive none." And he urged him to take it, but he refused. Then Naaman said, "If not, please let there be given to your servants whom you choose, O turf. From now on your servant will not offer burnt offerings, the sacrifice of any god but the Lord. In this matter may the Lord pardon your servant. When my master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there, leaning on my arm, when I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardon your servant his master in this matter." He said to them, "Go in peace." But when Naaman had gone a short distance, Gehazi, the servant of Elijah, the man of God, said, "See, my master has spared this Naaman, the Syrian, in not accepting from his hand what he brought. As the Lord lives, I will run after him and get something from him." So Gehazi followed Naaman. And when Naaman saw someone running after him, he got down from the chariot to meet him and said, "Is all well?" And he said, "All is well. My master has sent me to say, there have just now come to me from the hill country of Ephraim 2 young men with the sons of the prophets. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 changes of clothing." And Naaman said, "Be pleased to accept 2 talents. And he urged them and tied up 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of clothing and laid them on 2 of his servants. And they carried them before Gehazi. And when he came to the hill, he took them from their hand and put them in the house. And he sent the men away, and they departed. He went in and stood before his master, and Elisha said to him, "Where have you been, Gehazi?" And he said, "Your servant went nowhere." But he said to him, "Did not my heart go when the man turned from his chariot to meet you? Was it a time to accept money and garments, olive orchards and vineyards, sheep and oxen, male servants and female servants? Therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and to your descendants forever." So he went out from his presence a leper like snow. 2 Kings 6. Now the sons of the prophets said to Elisha, "See, the place where we dwell on the earth is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan, and each of us get a log, and let us make a place to dwell there." And he answered, "Go." Then one of them said, "Be pleased to go with your servants." And he answered, "I will go." So he went with them. And when they came to the Jordan, they cut down trees. But as one was falling on the log, his axe head fell into the water, and he cried out, "Alas, my master, it was borrowed." Then the man of God said, "Where did it fall?" When he showed him the place, he cut off a stick and threw it in there and made the iron float. And he said, "Take it up." So he reached out his hand and took it. Once, when the king of Syria was warning against Israel, he took counsel with his servants, saying, "At such and such a place shall be my camp." But the man of God sent word to the king of Israel, "Beware that you do not pass this place, for the Syrians are going down there." And the king of Israel sent to the place about which the man of God told him. Thus he used to warn him, so that he saved himself there more than once or twice. And the mind of the king of Syria was greatly troubled because of this thing. And he called his servants and said to them, "Will you not show me who of us is for the king of Israel?" And one of his servants said, "None, my lord, O king, but Elijah, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom." And he said, "Go and see where he is. Send and seize him." It was told him, "Behold, he is in Dothan." So he sent their horses and chariots and a great army. They came by night and surrounded the city. When the servant of the man of God rose early in the morning and went out, behold, an army with horses and chariots was all around the city. And the servant said, "Alas, my master, what shall we do?" He said, "Do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." Then Elisha prayed and said, "O Lord, please open his eyes, that he may see." So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. And when the Syrians came down against him, Elisha prayed to the Lord and said, "Please strike these people." So he struck them with blindness in accordance with the prayer of Elisha. And Elisha said to them, "This is not the way, and this is not the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek." And he led them to Samaria. As soon as they entered Samaria, Elisha said, "O Lord, open the eyes of these men, that they may see." So the Lord opened the eyes, and they saw, and behold, they were in the midst of Samaria. As soon as the king of Israel saw them, he said to Elisha, "My father, shall I strike them down?" He answered, "You shall not strike them down. Would you strike down those whom you have taken captive with a sword and with your bow? Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master." So he prepared for them a great feast. And when they had eaten and drunk, he sent them away, and they went to their master. And the Syrians did not come again on raids into the land of Israel. Afterward, Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, mustered his entire army and went up and besieged Samaria. And there was a great famine in Samaria as they besieged it, until a donkey's head was sold for 80 shekels of silver. Now as the king of Israel was passing by on the wall, a woman cried out to him, saying, "Help me, O Lord, O king." And he said, "If the Lord will not help you, how shall I help you? From the threshing floor or from the winepress?" And the king asked her, "What is your trouble?" She answered, "This woman said to me, 'Give your son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow.' So we boiled my son and ate him. And then the next day I said, 'Give your son, that we may eat him.' But she has hidden her son." When the king heard the words of the woman, he tore his clothes. Now he was passing by on the wall, and the people looked, and behold, he had sackcloth beneath on his body. And he said, "May God do so to me and more also, if the head of Elisha, the son of Shaphat, remains on his shoulders today." Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him. Now the king had dispatched a man from his presence. But before the messenger arrived, Elisha said to the elders, "Do you see how this murderer has sent to take off my head? Look, when the messenger comes, shut the door and hold fast against him. Is not the sound of his master's feet behind him?" And while he was still speaking with them, the messenger came down to him and said, "This trouble is from the Lord. Why should I wait for the Lord any longer?"
Okay, let's go ahead and break this down. It's such a gruesome story. Just irritates me. I would tear off my clothes if I lived in that time. All right, so chapter 5. I titled this teaching "Go and Wash in the Jordan 7 times," just because this is the true miracle, right? And both of these chapters have such messaging around being able to see the power of God versus not, and how hard life must be when we can't see in the spirit what's going on, right? So the first point that I want to talk about is one faithful sentence from an unlikely person. So Naaman is commander of the Syrian army. He's honored by them, powerful, mighty in the battle, but Naaman has leprosy. And so in Naaman's house, there's this young Israelite girl, and she's been taken captive in Syrian, this raid, and she's now serving the wife. And the girl has every reason to, right, be bitter or silent. You try to think of like, what was the disposition of her? But instead, she says to the wife in 2 Kings 5:3, "If only my master were with the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him." So, gosh, she's looking out for them anyway. And she says, she knows, she sees, and the others don't. So one sentence from this girl kind of shifts everything. And that's 2 Kings 5:15. "Behold, I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel." This Bible verse reminds us of the clarity and the authority and power behind God's actions when you believe that, with such affirmation. So God placed that girl in captivity in a foreign household and used her one faithful sentence to kind of reach the most powerful military man in Syria. So there's three things. The girl did not wait for like a bigger platform. Like we sometimes think, well, I'm just a mom, or I'm just a dad, or I live in this small little town out in the middle of Iowa, right? She didn't wait. She spoke up when she needed to. The second one is, you don't need influence to reach someone influential. I think this is key. So she's the servant and he's this king, right? If God tells you to speak, speak. If God inspires and nudges you, do it. And the last thing is, who has God placed near you right now that you need to speak out on behalf of? Okay, now the next teaching point is pride almost costing Naaman his miracle. So now Naaman arrives at Elisha's door with horses and chariots and this full entourage, right? And he's expecting some grand ceremony. And in 2 Kings 5:10, it says, "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh will be restored, and you will be clean." All right, so you headed all the way over here for this miracle by this prophet, and by God through the prophet, but he says what to do, and you don't respond because why? You don't have eyes to see. You don't have ears to hear. So Naaman's furious, and he expected Elijah to like come out and like, dramatically heal him. But Naaman, without his eyes and ears open, just, stops and wants to give up on it all. So Naaman's own servant, once again, we see this authority, this position. You see meek roles being platformed because they're positioned with God. This is what I don't want us to miss. Whether we are young, old, in a lower position by worldly standards, in a insignificant location, literally, if you are partnered with God, hey Kathy, then you have power, God's power, and you need to use it wisely. So Naaman returns to Elisha. Now, let's see, I missed some in my notes. So Naaman listens, and he goes down to the river and he dips 7 times. I've talked about this before, and I don't want us to miss this either. It's easy for someone like the servant to go do what Elisha says because the faith is there. When you have somebody who, we want to write off people who disregard God and don't understand God. But when people who don't understand, don't have ears and eyes to see, and they do something out of obedience anyway, that's pretty powerful. So we don't want to just disregard the fact that he did do it. And of course, the miracle happens. The healing, it wasn't like transactional. It wasn't. God's grace can't be like purchased. It was just simply graced upon us. So the 3 things I want us to think about before I move on to the next teaching point is Naaman, he almost walked away from his healing. Are we almost walking away from our healing? Do we have things deeply rooted in us that need to be made clean? I mean, the leprosy of our pride, or the leprosy, so just basically the unhealthiness of our ego, of our inability to forgive, of our stubbornness, whatever it might be. Are we walking away and we don't even realize it? Because it might cost us greatly. Okay, the next one is the cure required Naaman to lay down his dignity. I mean, he was like, why couldn't I just do this in my kingdom, in my great water, and so whatever the Lord asks you to do, in order for you to be completely made whole and restored, it might require you, it will, to be humble and to just do it, even if it looks countercultural. The third one is there a simple instruction from God that you've been resisting because it feels too ordinary or too small, like these servant people? Let's move on to Gehazi. So Gehazi takes what is not his and gets more than he bargained for. So let's break this down. So Gehazi, this is Elijah's own servant, who stood beside him through every miracle, right? Watches Naaman leave, and his heart turns to greed. Gehazi runs after Naaman's chariot and lies, turning Naaman and Elisha sent to collect the silver and the clothing and the 2 young girls and everything. Naaman gladly gives it, and Gehazi hides everything at home and then walks back. I mean, Elisha looks at him and says in 2 Kings 5:26, did not my heart go with you when Naaman turned from this chariot to meet you? Was it a time to accept money and garments? See, the leprosy of Naaman clings to Gehazi. And there's like this generational thing forever. Gehazi has made big consequences. Gehazi, he walks out of Elisha's presence white as snow. So how does this work? Well, there's three things I want us to think about this. One, Gehazi he stood beside Elijah every single day. He witnessed every miracle. He was completely unchanged. Proximity to God works. I mean, he's seen these miracles of God. It's not the same as having a surrendered heart. Okay, that's the first thing, is like we might witness these miracles, but then not really let them hit us in the heart. Sometimes we write them off, I don't know, as some, I don't know. Just think on that, because we want the miracles that we see in the here and now to literally believe what they are, God's doing. And when we write it off, we're hurting ourselves. Gehazi, he gained Naaman's silver and received Naaman's leprosy with it. I mean, wow. Talk about the deception that cost, right? And so are we taking something God really didn't want us to have, and then we're paying the price even more? And then last bullet I put here, is there something that you are pursuing or hiding that you know isn't really yours? Okay, so let's go ahead and go to chapter 6. So in chapter 6, I say those who are with us are more. So the first teaching point is, what can you see? And then what you can see is never the whole picture. So first, be paying attention to the things that you can see and understand that's only half of it, right? The king of Syria, Ben-Hadad, there's this war with Israel, and every military move that Ben-Hadad makes, the prophet Elijah warns King Jeroboam, and he's like, they're plotting on both sides. They understand one truly with God, and you got to kind of like set the stage before we start. So Ben-Hadad is so frustrated that he thinks there is a spy in his own camp. And you can see this in 2 Kings 6:12. This is going to set the stage well for us. So his servant tells him the truth. Elijah, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel that words that you speak in your bedroom. So he's already saying, and they believe this, like they have faith in God, like it's not their God, they're not partnered with it, but they get it. And he's being told, listen, whatever you even think, God is letting him know. So Ben-Hadad sends a great army by night to surround the city of Dothan, and Elisha is where he's sleeping and staying. So Elijah's servant, a young woman who replaced Gehazi after his judgment, so awakes early, goes outside, and sees these horses and chariots surrounding the entire city. So he cries out, Elijah. And then at last, my master, what shall we do? And that's 2 Kings 6:15. And Elijah answers, without fear. And that's the next verse. And then it's, do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. So Elisha prays, not for, now this is interesting what he prays for, not for Ben-Hadad's army to be destroyed, because that would be your instinct. Not for them to escape, that might be the cowardly instinct, for one thing, and it's in the next verse. Oh Lord, please open the eyes that he may see. So his servant, he wants his servant to be able to see so he can be bold and trusting, so everyone in his leadership is all in for God. So that's what our prayers need to be for our family and our friends. Open the eyes of their heart. This is Old Testament, New Testament. Our Bible verse that our company is built on, you can't really see it, but it's straight up here. There's a big picture, and it's Ephesians 1:17 through 19, sometimes 20 I even put in there, but it's open the eyes of our hearts so that we will know. And then it's HIP, like a hip, three things. The inheritance, hope that we have, that's the H. I is inheritance. So that means because we are New Testament believers, because we have given ourselves to God, we are now children of God. We have this inheritance and then the P is the same power that raised Christ from the dead is there to help you. And he knows this. He knows his people need to have their eyes opened. And that's where everything is. So the mountain around Elijah is full of these horses and chariots, and the situation didn't change. Everything changed in what the servant now could see. That's the difference. So 3 bullets. Elijah didn't ask for God to change his circumstances. He asked for the servant to see this spiritual world. Number 2, God's protection was surrounding Elisha the whole time. The servant just couldn't see them. And then number 3, what you see in the natural eye is rarely the full picture. This is how we open the show. Let's go ahead now and go to the next teaching point in 6. I got to keep moving. We only have 4 minutes left. So this is about mercy accomplishes what force cannot. So God strikes Ben-Hadad's entire army with blindness at Elijah's prayer. Isn't that funny? It's just such a teaching on being able to see. Elijah then walks the blind Syrian army who came specifically to capture him, right? All the way to Samaria, the capital of Israel. God opens their eyes, and Ben-Hadad's soldiers find themselves completely surrounded deep in enemy territory. King Jehoram, of Israel asked Elijah, "Shall I kill them?" And Elijah says in 2 Kings 6:22, "Set bread and water before them." I think we heard this story already. That they may eat and drink and go to their master. So Jehoram prepares this great feast for Ben-Hadad's army, and they eat and they drink and they go home. And the Samaritans, and this is in 2 Kings 6:23, did not come again on raids into the land, right? So this feast stopped what a sword could not. Our combat, our success in the world looks way different if we follow what the Spirit's telling us to do. It will look countercultural, and we need to remember whatever God is asking us to just do. So here's 2 bullets. Elisha, he chose mercy over force. Will you choose mercy like Jesus did, like God did? It broke the cycle of these Syrian raids permanently, at least for that season, right? And then the second bullet is the chapter then ends with Ben-Hadad later returning to besiege Samaria, a devastating famine falling on the city, and reminding us that seasons of peace shift quickly, and only God will be able to sustain us through them. So our heart question for chapter 6 is, in the situation right now that you have that feels like you're maybe surrounded, do you actually believe that those who are with you are more than just those who are against you? If they are God partnered, that's your goal, that's what you have to pray for, because it is far more capable. Success is in great amount waiting there for you. It might not look in the world right, but you just cling to the Lord. The second one is, are you asking God to remove the threat, or are you asking God for faith to be increased, for eyes to be opened, right? Okay, let me just look at some notes. And hi, Danielle, nice seeing you. We've got our regulars in this morning. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and pray us out of here. Thank you for being with us, and come back tomorrow. Follow, subscribe for more. Remember to hit your bell. I like that Danielle's reminding us, when you hit that little bell next to the subscribe, all notifications, right? Turn on your notifications. What happens is you get a little email. And so when I go live on like Tuesdays and different things like that, you're always being known, and you get the replay. If you miss, you get an email with the replay. All right, so let's go ahead and pray ourselves out of here. Father God, thank you so much for having a bigger plan, something more successful, more righteous, more mercy filled and graceful than anything we could imagine. Thank you for doing that. We say thank you in advance, knowing that we are the believers that know this, and we cling to you always because we know this to be true. And then, Lord, thank you for obedient faith when we don't know. When our faith is wavering a bit, that we respond anyway, that we virtually go dip ourselves in unlikely spaces 7 times because you said so. So, Lord, give us eyes and ears and a heart, mind, and soul to just go all in with you. And when we don't feel like it, let us do it anyway, because we're doing it out of obedience, and you see that. Lord, remind us that we need to get into the secret spaces with you, that we need to have a hard look at what we're pursuing and why. And that if it's about anything self-driven, that we need to realize it could be costing us and our family and our friends, our community. So Lord, just open our eyes to see these areas that we need to hand over to you. And then last, we pray that we're so focused on you, we see the army around us. We start to see in the spirit, like, Father is such a foreign word to people. I know this because I was there. I spent so many years where I'd have glimpses and I thought it was like, if they were bad, a bad burrito, and be like, ooh, ugh. And Lord, if it was something good, it was intuition, and maybe even enough of me thought, oh, it's discernment, but it was self-driven. And Lord, I just pray everyone listening right now that they understand that we can see in the spirit if we stay close to you, get in your presence, open the eyes of their heart, let them see things around. Father, we love you, we trust you, and we lift all this up in your name. All right, everyone, go live, love, learn, and lead according to the call that God has on your life.